Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching India Tonight with me, Sumita Kabir. And our top story tonight, well, after more than a year of bombardment, nearly 14 months, Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to a US and France brokered ceasefire deal. It will see a 2-month halt in fighting. In fact, Israel will retreat to its own side of the border, while Hezbollah will be removing their armed presence from southern Lebanon. But what are the terms of the deal? Well, Hezbollah will not operate as a military force on the temporary border. Israeli military will withdraw troops, and Israel and Lebanon are permitted to exercise their right to self-defense. But guess what? Just moments after US President Joe Biden announced the ceasefire deal, which Israel's cabinet had approved, an Israeli airstrike slammed into the Lebanese capital of Beirut. So the big question is, what brings about this deal now, and can this deal be permanent? We'll discuss all of those questions with our guest tonight. But first, let's listen into some reactions coming in of the US President Joe Biden and, of course, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
חיזבאללה בחר לתקוף אותנו משם ב-8 באוקטובר. חלפה שנה. זה כבר לא אותו חיזבאללה. החזרנו אותו עשרות שנים אחורה. חיסלנו את נסראללה, זה הציר של הציר. חיסלנו את כל בכירי הארגון. השמדנו את מרבית הטילים והרקטות שלו. חיסלנו אלפי מחבלים. והשמדנו את תשתיות התת-קרקע והטרור שסמוכות לגבולנו.
Today I have some good news to report from the Middle East. I just spoke with the Prime Minister of Israel and Lebanon. I'm pleased to announce that their governments have accepted the United States proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. All told, this has been the deadliest conflict between Israel and Hezbollah in decades. We're determined this conflict will not be just another cycle of violence. And so the United States, with the full support of France and our other allies, has pledged to work with Israel and Lebanon to ensure that this arrangement is fully implemented.
And to take this discussion forward, I'm now joined by Kabir Taneja, Deputy Director, Strategic Studies and Middle East Fellow, ORF. Thank you very much, Kabir, for taking the time out and speaking with ET now. My first question to you, how do you really see the details of this deal? Because this is coming in after almost a year of bombardment. But what happens if the deal is broken, and what are the big obstacles that you see to this deal? Do you think these will be maintained?
Look, it's a very feeble ceasefire right now, right? I mean, it can go either way, and we have to also remember that really the Hezbollah part of Israel's conflict came in much later after its war with Hamas. If you remember correctly, in October and November last year, Hamas tried very hard to bring in Hezbollah and open the northern front and so on and so forth, which really didn't materialize for Hamas. So this part of conflict came in much later, and this part of conflict is also sort of slightly a bit more fleshed out because Hezbollah and Israel have been at odds for a long period of time. In the 2006 was a pivotal moment when the conflict took place. But as far as the ceasefire is concerned, look, it comes down to the guarantees. Now that we have, there are these insinuations that both sides can sort of target the other side if it comes down to self-defense. Now, what is the definition of self-defense? We have already sort of seen that there has been deployment of the Lebanese army in southern Lebanon. So that basically sort of shows that probably a lot of Hezbollah fighters have left the area for the time being. So I think we'll have to wait and see whether it holds or not. There are too many modalities at play at this point of time for us to conclusively come to any opinion of it.
Right. But what about Gaza, Kabir? Because the hopes are pretty faint over there, and why has Gaza not been included here?
Gaza is a completely different problem. One of the reasons why Israel has gone for this ceasefire, I think, is that it did not want to stretch out its military in the north and in Gaza. The battle with Hamas is much more different. Yes, Hamas has support of Iran, but we have to remember that for Iran, the survivability of Hezbollah is much more important than the survivability of Hamas. Supporting Hamas for Iran is convenient, but
Right.
Hezbollah long term goes much deeper because his represent. So the question of Gaza and the ceasefire in Gaza is still on the table. I don't see much movement on that. Now for Israel, at least for the time being, this is something that they can sort of take home as one front for the time being, or for at least next couple of weeks becomes quiet. They can concentrate on the other one. But the Gaza question remains up in the air at best
Right.
right now.
Right. Absolutely, and I think that's going to be the next leg of the resolution of this conflict, provided that all the sides involved here can, of course, hold strong to the 60-day deadline. But Kabir, what really happens after 60 days if if all parties involved are managed to hold off the war for 60 days? Because then you have Donald Trump taking over, and that perhaps changes the game plan.
That's a very good point to make, because I think a lot of the reasons why this ceasefire was signed by all parties involved is because they all want to wait for Donald Trump to come in. They really don't want to take any decisions that will be reversed if Donald Trump comes into play, or something that Donald Trump will not be privy to or party to. So I think the easiest option for everyone right now was to sign up for this ceasefire engagement and basically wait for Donald Trump to come in and flesh out his Middle East policy of how that is going to look like, because no one knows. His appointments have been very strange. For example, the envoy for Middle East has no experience in geopolitics of the Middle East. So I think there is a lot of uncertainty even for the likes of Hamas and Hezbollah on how to go forward. And for the time being, I think for everyone was to just come and sign this ceasefire. A ceasefire is something that it's
Right.
not written in stone, so it gives everyone some sort of escapability as well if required.
Right, right. But Kabir, when you talk about the fact that, of course, there's going to be new policies so far as the Middle East is concerned during Trump 2.0 administration, but what really explains the timing of this deal? Why is it coming now? Because it's been over a year of constant bombardments, and now when Trump is all set to assume office in January, this deal comes through. What does it really mean for Biden's legacy?
Look, the Biden's legacy is very interesting, because one of the reasons why Biden was very sort of adamant in making this ceasefire engagement happen is because he finishes a term not on very strong footing. If this ceasefire is signed, it's sort of last hurrah for Biden in a more positive sense, in what could be termed as a very forgettable presidency. So as far as foreign policy is concerned. So, if from his point of view, I think the push came, but you have to remember, as I go back to the point I made earlier, I think this ceasefire was signed not because of Biden, or not because of the push of Joe Biden, but because of the uncertainty of what Trump brings in January. And I think everyone just wanted to sort of float through these 60 days before the inaugural of Donald Trump in January, and then see what to do. Because we right now, if you take any decision which has the propensity of sort of having long-term repercussions for either side, it can go either way come January, February. So the best thing to do was to sort of lay down arms for the moment and just wait it out.
Right, and that's an excellent point made, Kabir, that this deal is not really about what Biden can do and about his legacy, but more about what Trump administration 2.0 will bring about. On that note, I also want to understand, what do you think Trump administration will be looking at, especially with respect to Gaza?
Look, that's a very difficult question to answer, because I think, look, the Trump administration, if you take some of the takeaways from the first administration, though the good thing is that you have some idea what might happen. It's not completely off the books. But the thing is that Donald Trump is always about personality versus policy. So the personality part comes first, and the policy part comes second. He likes to make deals. He likes to solve global crises that no one else has been able to solve. You have to remember that the Abraham Accords happened under the Donald Trump banner. So he's seen as this person that can deliver things that no one else can deliver. So everyone knows this. So everyone will enter. Everyone, by everyone, I mean the Arab states, I mean Israel, I mean Iran. They will enter January bearing deals for Donald Trump from their own interest perspective, and which is why Iran is a very interesting country to keep an eye on, because if you see their narrative of starting nuclear talks again with the European powers, and openly saying that, look, if the US wants to talk, keeping our interest in mind, we're happy to do so. They're opening multiple doors as well as Trump comes in. So it's, as I said, it's a personality versus policy battle that happens in Washington whenever Donald Trump comes in, and that's what everyone's preparing for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But one final question, Kabir, before we let you go, is Israel. Do you think Israel is serious about this deal?
That's another good question. Look, the thing is that the coalition partners of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that belong to the far right and have been very, very visceral and vocal about being against any ceasefire have actually not said anything till now. They've been fairly quiet till the ceasefire was signed last night. So I am presuming they are on board till a certain extent. Their support is absolutely critical for Netanyahu as well, or maybe them to again it out for some, because maybe there are better concessions to be had for Israel as well from Donald Trump. They don't know that. So I think they are on board for the time being, but long term, it's very difficult to say. Ideologically, they will not be sort of too fond of a long term ceasefire in this manner, especially when Hezbollah is down and out at this point.
Right, and definitely we'll have to see the mechanics of how it really functions. But thanks very much, Kabir, for your insights. I appreciate you joining in on India Tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, a deal coming through better now than later, but now it all depends on whether all the parties involved can really hold on to the deal for at least 2 months.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.